Hi folks, Nick here with a little extra feature wrap-up for Final Fantasy II. We just finished playing through it in our Life of Timmy series. Let me actually check the volume mixer. No, it's maxed out. Okay, that's just what it is. We just finished playing this in our Life of Timmy series, and whenever we finish a full playthrough, I like to just give final thoughts about how I felt about the game, what it was like, and all of that. So I figured I'd do this too. Also, if you look at our list of achievements, it turns out that we are only missing one, which is to prove to Odin that you're worthy of his power. If you're wondering why there are so few achievements for Final Fantasy II, it's because it's Final Fantasy IV translated that has most of the series achievement set on Retroachievements for whatever reason. I think it probably has to do with the fact that the American version was made easier when Square imported it, at least as far as I understand it. So maybe the Final Fantasy IV Japan translated is considered sort of the official version of it. And so I figured, we might as well go and get Odin. So what we're going to do is we're going to load up our very last save and use our exit spell to get the heck out of here. And slowly make our way to our ship while I share my feelings about the game. And I really enjoyed it. There's a reason why Timmy and Tommy ended up playing through most of the game in the span of a couple of days, is because I really, really wanted to finish the game and see it. Partly because I've been recording these before one of my yearly trips back home. And so I figured, I kind of just want to finish it, so let's just record all of them in a row. But I also was really engaged with the story. I think it was a very fascinating upgrade for the time of cinematic storytelling. The way that they would use the battle system and the battle screen to tell stories and talk about encounters. Actually, I don't need the option for this for a while. Talk about the story and the encounters. It was really fun and innovative. The story itself, it was very boilerplate these days, but at the time it was a reasonable story to tell and something a little bit unique. And I had a good time throughout. I thought it was a little bit interesting that the game front loads a lot of pretty straightforward gameplay where, you really go from point A to point B to point C. The dungeons are very short. You don't really need to grind at all. And then the last third of it is a lot more dungeon crawling focused. Once you enter the Tower of Babel for the first time, those areas are a lot larger than previous things that you've been at. And a lot more complex to navigate and to figure out, okay, which is the dead ends, which are the dead ends, which are the proper pathways. So it gave me a deceptive notion of how far in the game I was. Because in terms of areas, right, once you finish once you get to the moon for the first time, it's like, oh, there actually isn't really a lot to do left. But it turns out that the stuff you have to do is actually very, 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 very grimy. Negative shout out to the horrible translation. Not just in terms of the script is fine, a little stilted, a little awkward sometimes, but it still gets the emotion through for the most part. But there's just the in-game translation that feels very rough. And I'm sure that part of it is that, this was only the second game that they brought to the US, and so naming conventions hadn't quite been established yet. But still, like, you look at these spells, and you wouldn't recognize, like, a third of them from what is on these things. Part 1, 2, 3, Ice and Lightning 1, 2, 3, those are clear enough. Psych being MP Drain, okay. Drain being Life Drain, yeah, sure. Toad and Piggy, why do we need two separate status like those? Venom versus Virus, I don't know which one poisons them in the thing, or what these do. Weak is what is probably ultimately turning into Demi in the main series. But a lot of this stuff, and the white magic's even worse. Most of these are so useless. Like Float, the only purpose of Float is to help you prevent the Quake spell. That's it. You can put Reflex, but there is no way for you to dispel Reflex, which gets very annoying when you're fighting that masked monster in the last dungeon that just casts Reflex on everyone, and then you have to figure out how the fuck do I heal my party members. I feel like Sight, which lets you see the neighboring area, should work in dungeons, and it doesn't. Peep is Scan, but I haven't really quite found a use for it regularly. I don't even know what Blink does. And so it was still playable, but it was a constant, as you've seen, going back to the manual to be like, what the heck do each of these magics do? Right? What are we supposed to do with all of these? And same thing with the equipment, right? It's so freaking annoying that you have to constantly refer to this equipment table to be like, okay, what am I supposed to buy? What is better than what I have? And even then, they just list the defense rate, what it's effective against, and who can equip it. Also, some things like Ribbon, effective against Ribbon. What the fuck does that mean, I assume that this means you're protected against most status effects, because that's what Ribbons are later in the series. But I did not know, and I did not inquire about it. Same thing with weapons. We got at some point a bunch of swords and axes and spears for Kane, and it's just like, what am I supposed to equip? Like, which of these, which weapon is better for me to put on? And that was very unclear and led to some frustration. So, combat, could be improved. Summons are cool, though, which is why we're gonna go and get the last one, Odin. The other thing is Doom. I did not understand how Doom works, or didn't work, or what the issue with it was, because it seemed like people stay at 0 for a while, but then some other times they would die immediately as despair. And there was no way of dispelling it, so it was just happening. So for some fights against like the giant one-eyed guy that would cast Doom on your whole party at once, I just saw it as a DPS challenge, and I somehow managed. But they don't give you enough tools to undo magic or undo status effects. It's stupid. Feels stupid. That's honestly my main complaint with the actual playing. Is this it? I don't think so. No, that looks like the Broken Castle. Yes, desert. This is it. So the last summon, Odin, should be waiting for us in the basement of this castle. go without this one. Just can't put it because we're going. I should say, I looked up the fact that Odin was in the basement. Oh! Probably was. I looked up that Odin was in the basement of the Castle of Baron, but that's about as deep of a research as I did. We might need to pull up a little guide to figure out exactly where to find him. So yeah, my ultimate thoughts are that this is very much a good game still, an interesting game to play if you've never touched it before. I would just make sure to play the Game Boy Advance version, where they fixed the translation, I assume, and it's more in line with the modern versions. And it's also, I'll say, it was nice for the Life of King series because it was really not a sweat for the most part. But maybe a little bit more challenging wouldn't have been the end of the world at the end of the day either. Oh, I think we found it. Welcome back. Your Majesty, don't be sad. The monster got to me, but I have gained the eternal powers to help you. Caller of Mist can summon me whenever you please, but first, I must test you. I mean, I'm sure it's fine with Bahamut and everybody rates this final boss, but... Besides the bad translation, my major gripes with the game are pretty minor. It's just, I would have liked to see a map on when you're driving the airship, just because it's very hard to orient yourself on the overworld, and it rolls by so fast that you really get really lost. Yeah. So let me finish my train of thought, otherwise we're gonna lose it. So I would have liked an overworld map to see things more easily. A better way to keep track of your inventory. And also, fuck the Land of Summon Monsters and the Land of Sylphs. I know that ultimately those are optional. You don't really have to go and get Asura or Leviathan. Except that if you don't get them, I don't think you have a snowball's chance in hell to get Bahamut before the Mega Flare time expires. Or, it's going to be a lot harder if you cannot just pull Leviathan on him. And without Bahamut, I don't really know how you go through most of the end of the game. Like, Bahamut was real clutch for most of that. But, those things where there's a bunch of force movement, and sometimes for like 30 squares in a row, no matter where you go, of tiles that take off like 5 to 10% of your health. This is just bad design. This is just you kicking the player when they're down, and it's not fun at all. But outside of those 3 minor things, and of course the translation, the game is still really much holds up and is fun, and it's a fun story of redemption and collecting things. The brother twist was a little silly. But, whatever. And at the end of the day... Oh, no, actually, one more gripe. I don't like the fact that they revived most of the characters that died. Like, I'm glad at least Tella stayed dead, and Anna stayed dead, but most everybody else was like, here, heroic sacrifice, and by the end it's like, nah, just kidding, we just brought them back. And it's just like, okay, I guess. They left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. But you have grown. This world is dependent on you, and I shall fight with you as Odin. Your Majesty. Alright, and that's Mastery. It only took 22 hours and 3 minutes. Now, to wrap this up, let's get out in the field and summon Odin at least one time to see what he looks like. I will say, I had a good time. I'm not particularly curious to play through it again. Like, I might look at the, was it a DS version? Yeah, it was a DS version of it. But, you know, it's like, yeah, I've experienced it. It's... because of its very linear focus and the way that it tells a specific story, it's a lot harder to want to replay it. Unlike some of the later entries in the series. We gotta pair with everybody was to kill them. So does he just kill them? How far does it go? Let me try going back to the moon and seeing if he has that same effect on the moon. And this is like where the frick is my ship? I don't know, because I don't understand how these continents are arranged. It makes absolutely no sense. And there isn't a map that we can use to identify the spots univocally from the position on the map. So what you end up doing is you just move a little further north and then keep going until you do a tour of the globe, and then keep moving north and just keep going. Part of the reason why this is so also disorienting is that, you know, as you would expect, if you keep going north, eventually... Well, okay. This is not a sphere, right? Because on a sphere, if you keep going north, well, you come out of the other side of north, but it takes you a very long time to get out to the south. Whereas here, once you move north of the map, you end up at the southern end of the map. So what this really is topologically a torus, which is like a donut. And that was your nerdy math moment. I'm trying going to the moon and summoning him on the moon. See what that looks like. Because it looked like it just killed those enemies, which is cool. But I'm sure there are some limits to his power. Yeah, it just kills him straight up. Interesting. There's gotta be a limit to his ability. I'm sure that you cannot summon it on a boss or something to that effect. I will curiously look into it because now I'm curious. But I think that will be a wrap on Final Fantasy II for the SNES. Very fun game. Not by any means equivalent on the same level as the later classics of 6, 7, 9. I probably would have 8 in that pack, and 10. 8 and 10 too are above it, but they're not at the same level for me. 12, I don't feel comfortable judging it because it also is so different in many ways. But you know, in the list of mainline Final Fantasies and how they fit in this type of battle system, right? That they inaugurate here and they more or less keep as is until 9, or actually until, well, you know, until 10-2 really, with some additions. It's a good entry. It's a story worth experiencing, and I hope you did by watching Timmy play through it. It's not one that I would feel any need to go back to. I don't feel there's a lot of secrets that we missed. No, I don't know about that blacksmith and dwarf realm. But anyways, I'm sorry to ramble, so I'll just cut the video short. Thank you so much for watching. As usual, thank you for your engagement. Please like and subscribe. Stay tuned to the channel for a whole bunch of series, hidden gems, required reading, Life of Timmy, and classical studies, but especially, of course, Life of Timmy, which is my pride and joy. Make sure to go like and subscribe it if you haven't yet. Thank you so much for watching. This is Nick, signing off, reminding us to let's keep retro playing together.